Chapter 1, My Feelings When I Look at You. Unexplainable, improbable, and sudden and maybe a little crazy were good words to describe what they had just experienced. The duo, known as the Wonder Duo, had been on a mission for a few days, patrolling the inner suburbs of the metropolis. They were on the lookout for street-level villains who sought media attention by challenging pro-heroes, reminiscent of the League of Villains from years past. The day seemed ordinary, children were heading to school, and the sky was clear. However, a sudden cold wind swept through the downtown area, alarming the pigeons and hinting at an impending attack. It was no surprise when a wall of ice appeared, freezing a nearby billboard. The villains had announced their presence. Heroes Deku and Dynamite, the famous Wonder Duo, appear if you have the courage to defeat the newest group of villains that will torment this entire city. We are the new Order of Villains. Their leader, a blue-haired villain, proclaimed, causing panic among the citizens. The duo remained hidden, observing the chaos. Dynamite recognized the villain from their time at UA. "What is he doing here?" he muttered, recalling their past encounter with the villain. Deku, trying to piece together the situation, asked, "Who?" Dynamite, exasperated, replied, "Forget it. He's someone we fought after we got our provisional IDs." As they strategized, Dynamite contemplated a plan. They needed to act quickly against the villains, who were reckless in their attacks. The plan involved a feigned attack from Deku, who would use a weaker version of his Detroit Smash, allowing Dynamite to surprise the villains from above. However, Dynamite was skeptical. "No way. You're being too obvious. They probably know your moves by now," he whispered, frustration evident in his tone. Deku considered this and met Dynamite's gaze. "What do you suggest, Kaken?" After a moment of thought, Dynamite proposed, "Let's use your full cowl. It'll cause less destruction and be easier to dodge. Then I can follow up with my AP shot." Deku's eyes lit up with excitement. "So you pay attention to my movements during fights?" Dynamite grumbled, "Shut up. I'm not the one shouting your move names like a lunatic." Deku chuckled, enjoying the banter. They prepared to execute their plan, with Deku moving to the right and Dynamite to the left, ready to spring into action. The blue-haired villain was busy robbing a store, holding a woman hostage while his accomplice gleefully collected snacks. The duo knew they had to act fast to save the day. Her outfit had a gothic punk vibe, with a hint of cuteness, and she carried a bow and arrow on her back, reminiscent of characters from survival video games. "Thanks to you, I'm making my childhood dream come true, Blue. Free sweets," she exclaimed. He rolled his eyes, glancing at the sky, waiting for the heroes to arrive. "Shut up, Kyung-soo. Forget about the sweets, the most important thing is for the heroes to arrive so we can finally put an end to this. We need to stop this democracy of heroes, just like the Great All for One and LOV did in the past." Izuku, hiding among the ruins of a destroyed shop, felt a shiver run through him, his heart tightening in his chest. He hoped that All Might would bless them so that such a tragedy would not happen again. So many people had died, both heroes and civilians. He couldn't allow them to establish a new league or turn Muzutafu and the world into chaos without rules. Fueled by memories of the past, the green-haired hero decided to act, pretending to be John without an arm, to execute his and Kaken's plan and channel his anger toward the villains. The thought of his loved ones being harmed, especially the memory of Kaken nearly defeated in Geist Beast's arms, ignited a fierce determination within him. "Hey, villains! What are you doing?" Deku called out, forcing a smile as he approached. His hands were behind his back, and a tick in his left eye betrayed his calm facade. The blue villain turned, a wide smile spreading across his face at the sight of the country's #1 hero. His gray eyes sparkled with excitement. "Hero Deku, I knew you'd come. We're just doing some shopping. But it seems your presence has changed our plans. You've ruined our shopping, haven't you, guys?" The group of young villains laughed, brandishing their weapons. "Okay. But now, I'm going to put an end to this. you're going to go shopping in jail," Izuku declared, still smiling. He turned to the crowd, their hopeful gazes reminding him of his childhood admiration for All Might. He had promised himself to be a symbol of hope, to inspire that same brightness in their eyes as they awaited his help. "Don't be afraid, everyone," he announced, striking his signature pose with a practiced smile. "Because I'm here." The crowd erupted in cheers, especially the children, who felt reassured by the presence of their hero. Although traces of fear lingered, it didn't matter now. Izuku calculated his next moves, considering the best approach for the attack. He didn't want to put on a show, his focus was on saving lives, not theatrics. Nevertheless, he would follow the plan he had made with Kaken and play his part to save the world. He decided to launch the full cowl, startling the 3 members of the villain group, who quickly retreated upon realizing the potential destruction of his attack. However, the leader of the group smiled, dodging swiftly and countering with a blast of ice, creating a barrier that soon disintegrated, sending Izuku crashing to the ground. The crowd gasped, unaware that this was all part of the plan. "Ha! I thought Hero Deku was stronger. He seems weaker than I expected. Is it fatigue, or have the heroes finally weakened since All Might stepped down? It looks like it will be much easier to dominate this world with the power of villains," the blue-haired man taunted. Izuku remained on the ground, continuing the act they had agreed upon, leaving the spectators horrified at the thought of a renewed conflict between weak heroes and stronger villains. Just then, another member of the Wonder Duo appeared, and smoke filled the sky amidst the skyscrapers. AP shot. "Take that," the blonde hero shouted from the air, launching his explosive attack at the gang. A thick wave of smoke enveloped the area, disorienting the civilians. However, Izuku was accustomed to this. He and Kaken had trained to fight in such conditions, relying on their knowledge of the area and their ability to recognize each other's sense. This made it easier for them to coordinate their attacks without relying solely on sight, allowing them to strike at the less experienced members of the villain group before targeting the more formidable foes. However, every strategy has its drawbacks, and unfortunately, this one did as well. The pair of heroes were unaware that among the youngsters was one who had an individuality induced by experiments, making him particularly effective in a world divided into Alpha, Beta, and Omega classes. The boy with long dreadlocked hair and tan skin, who appeared to have respiratory issues due to the oxygen cylinders he carried, possessed the unique ability to sense and recognize the pheromones of others, a skill that was especially relevant given that over 90% of the population belonged to the ABO classes. When the gang discovered his individuality and his resentment towards the heroes, they quickly recruited him to their side, creating a significant disadvantage for the hero duo, who remained oblivious to the shift in power. As soon as Dynamite landed to join Deku and confront the gang, he was struck by an unsettling sensation, as if he were being pursued. It reminded him of the ancient Omega hunt, where individuals felt a surge of emotions while fleeing from alphas seeking companionship. Disoriented and torn between staying in the fight or fleeing, Katsuki struggled to resist his instincts and uphold his role as a hero. Amidst the smoke he had created, he remained frozen, while the gang took advantage of the situation, amplifying their instincts through a device held by the boy with dreadlocks. Meanwhile, Izuku sensed the absence of his teammate, feeling a heightened awareness due to a temporary bond they had formed for communication. This connection was particularly significant for Deku, who harbored a platonic crush on Katsuki, a secret known only to a few close friends. The thought of Katsuki discovering his feelings was daunting, as he feared it would lead to humiliation. Returning to the conflict, Midorya caught a whiff of Katsuki's scent and began guiding civilians to safety. Katsuki, noticing an unusual smell and sensation, felt a wave of unease wash over him. He had heard of quirks that manipulated pheromones and instincts, but facing someone with such an ability was far more daunting than anything he had seen before. As the smoke cleared, Katsuki, still dazed, was suddenly struck by an arrow. "Kaken!" Izuku shouted, panic rising in his chest as he saw Katsuki fall to the ground. The citizens around them reacted with fear, some crying while others hurried to find safety. Izuku rushed to Katsuki's side, checking for signs of life and assessing the wound below his chest. Though it was bleeding, it was not as severe as he feared. He glanced at the blue-haired villain who had attacked Katsuki, feeling a surge of anger and protectiveness. The villain taunted, mocking the bond between the heroes. Katsuki's patience began to wane, and Izuku felt his own instincts rising. The sight of the green energy surrounding him startled the villains, causing them to flee in terror. Only the blue-haired leader and a girl with neon yellow hair remained. With a powerful strike, Izuku unleashed a Detroit smash, sending shockwaves through the air and launching the villains away. He then scooped up the unconscious Katsuki, checking his breathing and warmth, instinctively inhaling his familiar scent. Just before he took to the rooftops, a hand landed on his shoulder. Kirishima Aijiro, offering support in a moment filled with tension and urgency. Accompanied by Kaminari Denki, both heroes wore worried expressions as they observed their friends in distressing battle conditions. Despite their camaraderie, the green-haired hero growled at the redhead, revealing his long fangs as a warning. His jade-colored eyes transformed, displaying slits instead of pupils, and his scent intensified, signaling a clear message to stay away. The situation was tense. Two alphas were present with an omega in between, a scenario that often led to territorial disputes. Such conflicts in the past had been severe, sometimes resulting in one alpha's defeat. This instinctual behavior was evident in their current predicament. Hey. Calm down, Midobro. You don't have to growl at us. Aijiro said playfully, though a hint of fear crept into his voice, aware of the potential danger from the other alpha. Kaminari, unable to detect the pheromones like the others, still felt unsettled by Izuku's fierce demeanor. The usually sociable and kind hero now resembled a primal alpha, a stark contrast to his usual self. The two friends had never witnessed such a display of instinct from Izuku before. With considerable effort, they managed to pull Izuku away from Bakogu, who was in a vulnerable state. They rushed to the hospital, tending to the superficial injuries and Bakogu's condition. The police soon apprehended the villains responsible for the chaos, but neither the leader nor his accomplice admitted to their crimes. During the ambulance ride, Izuku fainted from exhaustion and the strain on his body. Fortunately, he did not require medication to calm him. Both heroes were treated in the same hospital room, where they rested and healed under the care of doctors with healing abilities. Later that night, as rain fell over the city, Izuku awoke in a panic, his heart racing as he searched the room for Bakogu. He was relieved to find Katsuki unconscious but safe, his relaxed expression bringing Izuku comfort. Just then, the door opened, revealing Mrs. Chiyo, his longtime doctor, along with Inko, All Might, and the Bakogu family. Inko's eyes filled with tears of concern for her son, and Izuku felt a pang of guilt for worrying her. Izuku, dear. Are you okay? Inko asked, her voice filled with worry. He's fine, Inko. Relax. Izuku-kun is an alpha, after all. Mitsuki chimed in, her confidence evident. As Katsuki stirred awake, he groaned in pain, his presence confirming that he was alive. A weight lifted from Izuku's shoulders, but when their eyes met, he felt a rush of emotions. Katsuki's gaze seemed to have a profound effect on Izuku, leaving him flustered and overwhelmed by the moment. The comforting scent of burnt caramel and cinnamon filled the air, sweetening the atmosphere around them. Wait, sweet Deku. As Mitsuki, Masaru, and Lady Chiyo walked away, the two members of the Wonder Duo found themselves staring at each other in silence. Suddenly, a heart tattoo appeared on the division. Between the blonde's left arm and forearm, glowing a vibrant pink. This caused Izuku's green eyes to widen, recalling a previous moment on the battlefield when he felt a strange sensation and heard an insistent voice urging him to claim his partner. Noticing the tattoo, the elderly woman approached Izuku, examining the area with her glasses. She chuckled softly and turned to the concerned parents. Oh, it's been years since I've seen a case like this. It's unusual for pro-heroes to experience something like this, it typically happens to civilians without quirks. Fascinating. Inko, overwhelmed with maternal instinct, grasped her son's wrist and asked anxiously, "But ma'am, what's happening with my baby and Katsuki? Are they okay? Is it some kind of illness?" "Calm down, Inko. Let her explain," Mitsuki said, reassuringly hugging her friend. Masaru, sharing the same worried expression, added, "Is Katsuki okay, ma'am? Izuku too?" The lady smiled, jotting down notes before placing her clipboard on a nearby table. She turned to the worried parents, observing Izuku's somewhat wild expression. "It's all right, everyone. There's nothing to worry about. They're experiencing effects from the villain's quirk they fought." She smiled gently, ignoring the lingering concern on their faces. 10 years ago, it was rare for heroes to be affected by such quirks. However, humanity's genes are evolving faster than science can keep up, so it's not surprising to see powers like this emerging. Mitsuki interjected, eager for answers. "But what powers are you talking about? What do our children have?" The elderly woman quickly returned with 2 photos in hand. The hero Dynamight was impacted by the scent released by the villain, she explained, pointing to a captured image of the villain. This had a significant effect on his inner Omega, triggering a kind of standard formula. It's as if his natural instincts to find a partner are surfacing, and he may fall in love with the first person he sees. Inko and Mitsuki exchanged surprised glances before looking at Izuku, who appeared calmer after taking a medication given by a nurse. "That means..." "Yes." Izuku acted that way because he was affected by Bakogu's instincts, and his inner alpha felt threatened by this situation, the old woman continued, rummaging through her desk. She handed Inko a pill box and Mitsuki a form. "Inko, right? Tell your son to take one of these pills a day until he can leave the hospital." She offered the box containing baby blue pills. "Mitsuki and Masaru, please fill out the isolation form for your son." "What? But why?" the 2 women asked in unison, alarmed by the doctor's instructions. The elderly woman chuckled lightly. "It's clear that Deku's inner alpha won't let go of Dynamite. We don't want 2 heroes causing trouble because of their instincts, do we? So, we'll keep them in isolation until the effects of Dynamite's quirk and Deku's confusion wear off." "Okay." The 2 mothers nodded, accepting the elderly woman's authoritative demeanor, who had cared for the heroes since their days in 1A. Izuku and Katsuki would be in the hospital for a while, together, which didn't bode well given their complicated history. Izuku woke up feeling strange, his body lighter than usual. Was it the medicine his mother had given him? He couldn't tell, and surprisingly, he didn't mind. He remembered being in a hospital, and that was it. There had been an argument, but his head felt foggy. He could see the movement of lips and expressions of surprise, but he couldn't hear the conversation between his mother, Mitsuki, and Lady Chiyo. Instead, there was a buzzing in his ears, like distant mosquitoes on a summer night. When Katsuki woke up, Izuku felt even stranger. His senses were heightened, he could hear everything too clearly, and his sense of smell sharpened. It reminded him of the moment Katsuki was attacked by the villain. The memory flooded his mind, and he felt a surge of protectiveness. Seeing Katsuki in front of him triggered flashes of their past, his childhood friend injured, lying on the ground. Izuku's instincts kicked in, and he couldn't help but feel a strong urge to protect him. It was unusual to feel such concern for Katsuki, who was always capable of taking care of himself. Since their first day in kindergarten, Katsuki had made it clear he preferred to be independent. But now, with everything that had happened, Izuku's feelings were more complicated than ever. This feeling lingered over time, evident in their fights and, more importantly, in their daily lives as a duo. Could it be the trauma of remembering the first battle with Shigaraki, where All for One's power had nearly taken him down? Or the worst of their encounters with the League of Villains, where Shigaraki had nearly harmed Kaken, prompting Edgeshot to sacrifice himself to save him? Just recalling these events ignited a fierce rage within the Alpha. He recalled every detail of that day, and the thought of such danger looming over him was unbearable, especially if Kaken was one of the victims. Before he could reflect further, he realized they were no longer in the room they had been in before, nor were his parents or Mrs. Chio present. He found himself in a crazy mood again, mumbling and talking to himself. "Hey, Alpha. Stop growling at nothing." Kaken's voice, softer than usual, pulled him from his thoughts, forcing the green-haired man to focus on him. The term Alpha was unusual. In the 20 years they had known each other, Kaken had never called him that. Was it really Kaken, or was it Toga in disguise? No, she was gone, it couldn't be her. He opened his eyes wide, finding himself in a different room. Kaken was sitting on a hospital gurney, looking at him. The scent of the place, filled with Kaken's pheromones, was overwhelming. It was intoxicating, like a drag. He studied the Omega closely, surprised by several things: the strange tattoo on Kaken's arm, his flushed cheeks, and the little hearts in his red eyes. "What happened to you, Kaken?" he asked, a mix of worry and intrigue in his voice. Kaken laughed, likely at his own misfortune. "Look, I don't judge. I don't even recognize myself after those attacks. I have no control over this body. Why are you so weak, stupid Omega?" The last part, whispered in irritation, was heard by the other, who quickly intervened. "Your body and your Omega aren't stupid, Kaken. You're strong and brave. More than any Alpha." At the compliment, Kaken blushed and looked away, his scent becoming sweeter. A wide, silly smile appeared on his face, surprising the number one hero, who was used to Kaken's growls and curses directed at him. Unexpectedly, Kaken moved closer, nuzzling into the holder of One for All's arm while sniffing his skin. Izuku felt his heart race at the unexpected affection, reminiscent of his teenage dreams when his feelings for the explosive blonde were immense, known only to Ida and Todoroki. "Kaken. What are you doing?" He was silenced by Kaken's fingers on his lips. "Shoo. Can you just be quiet and leave me here?" Kaken asked politely, his fingers sliding along Izuku's arm as he succumbed to his instincts. "That smells good." Kaken spent a long time simply enjoying the warmth they shared, purring with happiness at the fulfillment of his desires. Eventually, he fell asleep, snoring softly. Izuku tried to pull his arm away, but Kaken's grip tightened, a low growl indicating he wasn't ready to let go. Just then, Mrs. Chio entered the room, her face lighting up. "Oh. I didn't know you were already in those cases, hee." Izuku stared at her in confusion, his cheeks burning with embarrassment. His Alpha was thrilled by Kaken's boldness in courting him, especially after so much coldness in their relationship. Madam. It's okay, dear. There's no need to be embarrassed. It's normal for the Quirk's effects to cause strange behavior after an incident like this, especially with an Alpha." She chuckled lightly at Izuku's startled expression. "I think it will last about 5 to 7 days. The effects are temporary, so each day he will return more to himself. It's a regressive quirk, the longer it goes on, the more the effects will fade." Izuku felt his hopes sink. 5 to 7 days wasn't long, but being confined with Kaken, even in this altered state, was daunting. He worried about how Kaken might react to his advances and the potential for humiliation if he were rejected. This uncertainty weighed heavily on him. He would rather face hundreds of villains than risk being turned down by his childhood friend. As Izuku wrestled with his thoughts, Mrs. Chio left the room, checking her clipboard for updates on Kaken's condition. The blonde was stable, and his health always surprised her. She smiled at the murmurs from the Alpha, finding humor in the situation as she understood their significance. The young lady felt sympathy for the hero with green curls, sensing the challenges he faced. After all, Shuto and Ida weren't the only ones aware of Midoriya's deep admiration for the hero Dynamite. Chio had suspected it for a long time, starting with her observations during their conflict in Ground Beta and continuing through the battle against Shigaraki nearly a decade ago. The expressions of awe and embarrassment exchanged between the green-haired hero and the blonde one spoke volumes about their feelings, though Dynamite remained oblivious. An hour passed, the steady ticking of the clock leaving the Alpha feeling disoriented. He was still adjusting to the weight of the Omega resting on his shoulder, silently pleading for strength as the enticing scent enveloped him. Fortunately, two familiar figures entered the room, bringing food and news. Rhodey and Anime, their agents, arrived with paperwork, Katsudon for the green-haired hero and kimchi for the blonde. They also carried tablets containing articles and dialogues about the famous hero duo. Both Rhodey and Anime were betas, which eased the tension in the room. If they had been alphas, the atmosphere might have turned competitive, as Deku was the only alpha present, which could have stirred possessive instincts in them. Thankfully, the two agents were betas and remained unfazed by the low growls emanating from the blonde or the subtle possessive scent released by the green-haired hero. We're more concerned about what the press will say regarding your disappearance than the public's reaction. You know how it is, the press has a tendency to jump to conclusions, Rhodey remarked, observing the heated discussion between Anime and Katsuki. Izuku felt a wave of embarrassment wash over him. It felt strange to discuss such adult matters with someone so formal, especially someone who managed his finances and social affairs. Talking to Rhodey about personal matters was particularly awkward, especially with the current context. But you know that it's not like that. We're just stuck here because of the Quirk incident. Izuku stammered. I know, more than anyone here. However, it's inevitable that the press and others will speculate about your relationship with Dynamite. If I didn't know your personality or your complicated relationship, I might think the same, Rhodey replied. Izuku's face turned a deep shade of crimson at the implication. He was not the type to take advantage of someone else's vulnerabilities, especially not Kaken. The thought of exploiting Kaken's situation was against everything he believed in. He couldn't even imagine what it would mean to take advantage of the blonde's heightened instincts. Rhodey, please don't let the press think that about us, especially Kaken. He hates being seen in that light. Please do your best to prevent any rumors, Izuku pleaded, his gaze fixed on Kaken. Rhodey looked at Izuku, recognizing the sincerity in his request. It was hard to deny the alpha hero anything, especially when he was so understanding and, more importantly, the one who signed his paycheck. It was a challenging task. Okay, I'll inform Anime about your request, and we'll reach out to the agencies tomorrow, Rhodey agreed. I knew you were the best, Rhodey. Izuku exclaimed, his smile brightening the room. Rhodey felt a rush of admiration as he received a grateful hug from the hero. After Rhodey and Anime stepped out to discuss the press situation, Izuku turned his attention to the Katsudon. The aroma was irresistible, and he was eager to dig in. However, just as he picked up his chopsticks, his hunger vanished when the Omega sat down next to him, their legs brushing against each other. He swallowed hard, trying to steady his heartbeat. The presence of the blonde was overwhelming, distracting him from his meal. Kaken seemed unaware of the effect he had on Izuku, focused solely on his own food. It was unusual for Izuku to feel this way, so flustered by being near Kaken. Why did it suddenly bother him so much? The blonde's presence made his heart race, and he found it hard to concentrate. Is there something on my face? Kaken asked, glancing away, feeling slightly embarrassed. Izuku realized he had been staring, his cheeks flushed. This feeling was more intense than he expected, likely a side effect of the Quirk incident. Just eat, Kaken replied, trying to regain his composure. I idiot, he exclaimed, shoving the chopsticks into the alpha's mouth, urging him to focus on his food before it got cold. He knew that if he looked into those jade-colored eyes for too long, he would become flustered, his cheeks flushing with warmth. Izuku complied, devouring the Katsudon with impressive speed. He finished in just 4 minutes, fighting the urge to watch the blonde enjoy the rest of the kimchi. Katsuki looked so handsome, his hair gleaming in the sunlight as he concentrated on his meal. The alpha found himself wondering if the spicy flavor would enhance a kiss, if that mouth was as delightful as it appeared. Suddenly, their eyes locked, and a wave of emotions surged within him. He felt a mix of excitement and nervousness, aware that their connection was deepening. Instead of the usual teasing banter, they shared a moment of intense focus, as if the world around them had faded away. In that instant, it felt as though nothing else mattered. They were lost in each other, oblivious to the outside world. If everything were to end right then, they would be content, knowing their last moments were spent together. As they drew closer, their breaths mingled, and the tension between them grew palpable. Izuku's thoughts raced with desire, urging him to close the distance and kiss Katsuki. It seemed the feeling was mutual, as Katsuki responded to the alpha's presence with a soft purr, indicating his own longing. Just as their lips were about to meet, the door swung open unexpectedly. Katsuki pushed the alpha away, trying to act nonchalant, while Izuku found himself sprawled on the floor, cheeks flushed and heart racing. The new nurse blushed, apologizing for the interruption, claiming she had entered the wrong room. That night, both Izuku and Katsuki avoided eye contact, embarrassed by what had almost happened and worried it might jeopardize their relationship. Little did they know, their instincts were working together to draw them closer. Days passed, and they remained restless and awkward. Since that day, their eyes had not met, and they felt the tension in the air whenever they were near each other. Their cheeks flushed at the slightest proximity, and conversations were replaced by silence. Izuku's thoughts spiraled as he questioned whether he had acted too hastily or if he had pressured Katsuki. The uncertainty was driving him mad, and he felt the need to resolve it soon. But it was 3 a.m, and his insomnia had taken hold, leaving him restless and in need of clarity. He had grown accustomed to early nights, a habit Katsuki had encouraged him to adopt. Sleeping from 8 at night to 6 in the morning was extremely satisfying. His performance the next day improved significantly compared to when he stayed up late, struggled to sleep well, and woke up feeling like a zombie during Aizawa-sensei's classes. He looked at Katsuki, who was peacefully asleep. A smile spread across his face. Katsuki was undeniably cute, and the comforting scent he emitted was soothing, a stark contrast to the intensity of battle. Without realizing it, he began to purr softly, his senses overwhelmed by the sweet aroma that lingered in the air. This had been a familiar feeling since childhood. Lost in his thoughts and the fatigue weighing on him, he noticed Katsuki stirring and getting up from his stretcher, approaching him with an embrace that felt like a warm hug from a body pillow. It wasn't until Katsuki's familiar scent enveloped him that he truly became aware of the moment. The closeness of Katsuki's neck and the silky strands of his hair tickled his chin, but he hardly noticed. The urge to touch and be near him intensified, and he felt a rush of emotions. He wanted to savor the moments when Katsuki returned from a long mission, tired and ready to rest. Imagining wrapping his arms around him and inhaling that comforting scent filled him with longing. If only he could. Pulling back slightly, he realized he was losing control of his instincts. He had never felt this way before, especially not in front of others. The intensity of his feelings was overwhelming, and he struggled to maintain composure. Just then, Katsuki's soft purr broke the silence, and he tightened his grip around Izuku's torso. To Izuku's surprise, Katsuki leaned in closer, brushing his lips against Izuku's for a brief moment before nestling into the curve of his neck. In that instant, Izuku felt a wave of emotions wash over him: astonishment, embarrassment, joy all at once. He purred happily, holding the person he had always desired. This was a moment he had envisioned before, a dream that felt all too real now. He worried that his racing heart might wake Katsuki, so he took a deep breath, trying to calm himself with memories of childhood lullabies and favorite songs. However, the feelings swirling within him proved to be more powerful than any calming thought. Eventually, he closed his eyes, taking one last whiff of Katsuki's hair, surrendering to his desires and embracing him tightly. The comforting scent enveloped him, and he drifted into a peaceful sleep, wishing for this moment to last. The next morning dawned with heavy rain, the sky a dull gray. News reports warned of flooding in various areas due to the downpour that had started early in the morning. Izuku woke to the sound of Chiyo bustling in the doorway, his gaze shifting between the floor, the nurse, and Katsuki, who was still asleep on his chest. Memories of the previous morning flooded back, leaving him feeling overwhelmed and embarrassed. His cheeks flushed, and he instinctively moved his hands away from Katsuki's waist, guilt washing over him. He averted his gaze, bracing himself for Katsuki's typical explosive reaction. However, to his surprise, Katsuki simply leaned closer, a curious look in his eyes. Instead of anger, there was a hint of mischief as he remained close, studying Izuku intently. An embarrassed Izuku, his heart racing, pulled away from the Omega whose scent was intoxicating. They were so close, just millimeters apart, and it was overwhelming for him. The blonde, with an amused expression, tried to close the distance, though he was also flustered by Izuku's reaction, who was blushing deeply. As the blonde approached, Izuku instinctively moved back, feeling a rush of anxiety. It felt as if he might faint from the intensity of the moment. When they accidentally fell to the ground, Izuku found himself awkwardly positioned, his cheeks flushed, while Katsuki loomed over him, their faces dangerously close. This scene was witnessed by Izuku's friends, including Kirishima and Lady Chiyo, who entered the room just in time. "Did I interrupt something, children?" she asked with a playful smile. Izuku's face turned an even deeper shade of red as he jumped up, pulling Bakogu with him. The Omega had a small smile on his lips, his cheeks almost matching Izuku's color. "And no ma'am. It was an accident, it wasn't on purpose." Izuku stammered. Katsuki grumbled, "Idiot, she didn't even ask," but a smile lingered on his face as he adjusted his hospital gown. Izuku felt overwhelmed by the situation, wishing he could disappear. Once they had composed themselves, their friends entered, looking worried and confused. Ochako was the first to speak. "Deku-kun, we were worried because you weren't answering our messages or calls. Midorya, Ida, and Ochako were really upset at the agency meeting when they heard about you and Bakogu a few days ago," Shudo added, his expression serious. He was more sensitive to the pheromones in the room than Ochako, who seemed oblivious to the tension. Izuku chuckled nervously, feeling awkward with Ochako's hand on his arm. The presence of another Omega was strange when Katsuki was so protective. Fortunately, Lady Chiyo noticed and quickly removed her hand, sensing the growing tension. Katsuki's demeanor shifted, his eyes narrowing and his fangs showing as he reacted to the perceived threat. The atmosphere grew tense, and Tenya swallowed hard while Kirishima laughed nervously, unsure of how to handle the situation. "Miss Uravati, you can't do that when there's an Omega around, especially when it's marking its territory," Lady Chiyo said, glancing between Ochako and Izuku. She winked at them, trying to ease the tension, but the group was still taken aback. Azui covered her mouth in surprise, and Tenya adjusted his glasses, clearly shocked. Ochako looked astonished at the unfolding dynamics between Katsuki and Izuku. "Is this serious, Miss Chiyo?" "Because I'm not sure if this confinement is a good idea," Azui voiced her concern. Shudo, covering his nose, stepped closer. "I'm worried about this confinement too, Lady Chiyo. Are you sure Midoriya will be okay with Bakugu in the same room?" Katsuki stepped forward, his hands resting possessively on Izuku's chest, his expression fierce. The tension in the room was palpable, and Izuku felt a mix of fear and excitement at the intensity of Katsuki's presence. "Stay away. Mine." Bakugu growled, his gaze commanding everyone to step back, still contemplating whether Chiyo's approach was truly welcome. Midoriya weighed his options, glancing between his friends and Kirishima, who appeared slightly affected by the Omega's pheromones. Bakugu felt a twinge of jealousy seeing the other alpha's reaction. Sensing the tension, Chiyo decided to take the group outside for a moment, recognizing the danger of leaving them alone with Bakugu in such a volatile state. After some hesitation, they agreed to step out, leaving Izuku and Bakugu alone in the room. As the atmosphere calmed, Bakugu's breathing steadied, and his features returned to normal. A wave of embarrassment washed over him, and he felt his heart race. Izuku had noticed Bakugu's territorial behavior, which made him feel a mix of warmth and desire to keep the blonde close forever. Though Bakogu tried to look away, he was acutely aware of how close they were and how Izuku's presence affected him. "Sorry about scaring your friends, Deku," he muttered. "You didn't mean to, Kaken. Don't blame yourself. I'm sure Ms. Chio is explaining everything to them. And Kirishima was there too." Izuku replied, both of them struggling to meet each other's eyes, reverting to their usual awkwardness. "Still, it wasn't great. Round Face seemed worried about you." Bakugu's tone hinted at jealousy, which didn't go unnoticed by Izuku. "It's okay. I'll talk to her later. It was just the Quirk acting up, right?" Izuku said, attempting to dismiss the concern. However, the question lingered in both their minds, particularly in Bakugu's. Deep down, he knew his feelings were genuine, and the jealousy he felt towards Izuku's friendship with Round Face was more than just a passing emotion. It had all started after Izuku left UA, and his feelings had shifted dramatically. He had never cared for Izuku in this way before, so why now? His thoughts were interrupted by Edge Shot, who helped bring him back to reality. When he saw Izuku again, he realized that what he felt was love. Unfortunately, the voice in his head grew louder, urging him to confront his feelings for Izuku, especially as they became pro-heroes together. Bakugu found himself battling his instincts, frustrated by how his emotions were changing. He felt envious of the stability in Izuku's relationship with Round Face, while his own connection with Izuku felt chaotic. Yet, every time Izuku smiled or showed concern for him, something inside Bakugu softened. He wanted to make sense of these feelings, to rid himself of the confusion that accompanied them. A few days prior, while Izuku slept peacefully, Bakugu had contemplated his emotions. He decided to test himself, questioning whether his feelings were genuine or just a result of the quirk. Stepping quietly toward Izuku, who was sleeping soundly, Bakugu took a deep breath. He leaned in closer, their noses nearly touching, and felt an overwhelming rush of emotions. He had expected nothing to happen, but as he hovered near Izuku's face, he felt his heart race and his thoughts spiral. In that moment, he realized he couldn't view Izuku the same way again. The feelings he had tried to ignore were undeniable, and he found himself captivated by the beauty before him. How could someone he once saw as insignificant turn his world upside down so suddenly? Deku felt utterly lost as he faced the unexpected situation. It was daunting to think that he was too young to be experiencing such intense emotions while Kaken stared at him with an intensity that made his heart race. It felt as if his heart was trying to escape from his chest, drumming loudly in his ears. The atmosphere was charged, and Deku found himself drawn to the comforting scent that surrounded Kaken, making him want to lean closer. Unbeknownst to them, their faces inched closer together, each moment heightening the tension between them. Deku's breath, fresh and minty, became palpable to Kaken, whose flushed cheeks were mesmerizing to him. Their eyes were locked on each other's lips, both inviting and tantalizing. In that moment, they were two young adults caught in the throes of attraction. A hesitant hand reached out, brushing against Kaken's thigh, fingers tracing invisible patterns on his skin. Overcoming his shyness, Kaken reached up to touch Deku's face, curious about the softness of his skin and the cinnamon flecks that adorned it. As Kaken pulled Deku closer, their mouths were mere millimeters apart. Deku surrendered to the moment, feeling the magnetic pull of attraction overpowering any hesitation. Kaken's lips were so close, so sweet, that it was irresistible. Deku felt a rush as Kaken's warm tongue brushed against his lips, and they soon found themselves in a rhythm, exploring the newfound connection between them. It felt surreal, like a dream come true. They broke apart, gazing into each other's eyes, their breaths mingling as they intertwined their fingers in a moment of shared intimacy. However, their bubble burst when the door swung open, revealing a surprised Kirishima and Todoroki. The sight left Deku feeling exposed and embarrassed, as if the warmth of the moment had been replaced by a chill of reality. Kirishima stammered an apology, his face flushed with embarrassment, while Todoroki remained stoic, simply acknowledging the situation with a nod. Deku instinctively distanced himself from Kaken, feeling a wave of guilt wash over him. He worried that Kaken might be upset about the kiss, questioning whether it was just his quirk influencing their actions. His thoughts raced, filled with self-doubt. Kaken, noticing Deku's turmoil, gently touched his lips with his finger, breaking him from his spiraling thoughts. "Shut up. I didn't just want to smell you, I wanted to kiss you. It was good. So stop overthinking." Kaken's flustered admission made Deku's heart soar. Deku's smile widened, finding it endearing to see Kaken embarrassed. "So, you thought my kiss was good? Do you like me?" he asked, his curiosity getting the better of him. Kaken's eyes widened in surprise, and he felt a rush of heat to his cheeks. "Idiot," he muttered, unable to meet Deku's gaze. The warmth of Deku's fingers on his waist sent a thrill through him. Deku had never felt so exhilarated. He couldn't help but wonder if Kaken's reactions were genuine or influenced by something else. Their connection felt real, and he was eager to explore it further. Just then, Uraraka entered, breaking the tension. "Here, Mrs. Chiyo sent this medicine for Bakogu. She said it would help him feel better about earlier." Deku quickly responded, trying to regain his composure. "We don't know, Uraraka-san," he said, feeling a mix of relief and embarrassment. The bag was held out to him, containing a pill wrapped in a paper towel, a meal, and a bottle of water. He handed the bag to Kaken, feeling shy and avoiding eye contact, then left the room, pondering how the air felt cooler outside. How long had it been since he had seen the outside world? He walked with Ochako, influenced by the idea that Bakogu needed some time alone after what had happened earlier at the hospital. The area was a beautiful, wooded field, with the sun shining brightly and flowers blooming. It was a lovely day, with no signs of rain. So, Kaken mentioned that you seemed to want to talk to me when you arrived with the others," Izuku started, trying to be direct. Ochako looked startled but smiled shyly, scratching her arm as she chose her words. "Oh, that. I wanted to talk with you." Deku gave her a knowing look, smiling in encouragement. Ochako sighed, gathering her courage to meet his jade-colored eyes. I saw you and Bakugo earlier. You seem closer now. I want to know about your relationship, if you are. You know." Izuku felt a wave of embarrassment wash over him. He hadn't expected her to be interested in his relationship with the often irritable Bakugo. His hands felt clammy, and he lowered his gaze to hide the blush on his freckled face. Ochako laughed lightly, touching her chin shyly. "I know you haven't talked about it yet. I even spoke to Lady Chiyo about everything that's been happening, and I'm supportive. I've always felt that opposites attract." "Since when do you suspect?" he asked, curious. "I think since he was confronted by All for One. The way he suddenly changed, desperately seeking you to apologize, was different for him. After the war, when you became a duo, your dynamic changed too. Your eyes light up when you see each other." Izuku felt his face heat up even more. It was surprising that she had noticed things he hadn't even reflected on himself. "I felt guilty about it," she continued, taking a deep breath. "Back in UA, I liked you. Mina even encouraged me to confess to you, but then you left UA, and during the war, you and Bakugo grew closer, and my feelings faded." Izuku was taken aback. He had never considered that Ochako had feelings for him. He was surprised but also intrigued. "Uraraka, why are you telling me this now?" he asked, trying to process her words. "Because when I saw how you and Bakugo are now, I realized I distanced myself out of guilt. I didn't want to ruin our friendship. But don't you think it's time to acknowledge what's been there for so long? You've known each other since childhood, and despite everything, there's still a hesitance to get closer." Her words hit him like a splash of cold water, making him reconsider his choices. He had been afraid of being rejected by Kaken and feared ruining the friendship he had longed for. He thought about how his fear had held him back, and if he had been brave enough to confront it earlier, he might have had years of happiness. His inner alpha roared, urging him to run back to the room where they had been. Still, he remained there for a few more thoughtful moments, needing to understand why Ochako wanted to help him so much. But, Ochako, why? You liked me. Shouldn't I have stayed away from Kaken? Why are you doing this? She chuckled again, giving him a light punch on the shoulder. Because I want to help the person I cared about. I want you to be happy. Even if my feelings have changed, I want you to be with the person you love. You fought so hard for this. Why not embrace it? Ochako's words made Izuku reflect deeply on his life. He had always wanted Katsuki as his partner, ever since the exams when his alpha first reacted to Kaken. So why, after everything they had been through, was he still so afraid? He sighed, feeling the urge to finally take a step for himself, despite the fear that lingered in his mind. Noticing his hesitation, Ochako placed her hand on his shoulders, meeting his emerald gaze. Think about yourself for once. Don't worry about rejection or what others think. How long have you been hiding your feelings for him? Go. Declare yourself, Deku-kun. Without thinking twice, he took her advice to heart and ran as fast as he could, using a bit of one for all to boost his speed, quickly arriving at the room. As he was about to enter, he came face to face with Kirishima, who greeted him with a bright smile and a thumbs up. That unexpected gesture made Izuku feel a twinge of annoyance. What had Kirishima been doing in there? He should have arrived sooner. He rushed into the room to find a half-dressed Katsuki standing there, arms crossed and a familiar frown on his face, his lips forming a pout. Hi. Hi. And they kept silent. Their eyes locked, creating an intense connection that felt electric. Words struggled to form, as if caught at the back of Izuku's throat. Butterflies danced in his stomach, and his mind raced with thoughts. Despite the overwhelming feelings, Izuku managed to speak. I need to say something. Ichem. Katsuki remained quiet, his curious gaze urging Izuku to continue. He was so captivating that Izuku almost forgot he was about to confess his feelings. His eyes wandered over Katsuki's features, momentarily lost in admiration. A wave of insecurity washed over him. Was he truly worthy of someone so stunning? But the thought quickly faded, his desire to express his feelings was stronger than his doubts. Taking a deep breath, he prepared to speak. I like you. In fact, I always have. I realized my feelings grew stronger when your quirk activated. I held back because I was scared of losing our friendship, but Ochako helped me see that I shouldn't suppress my feelings forever. It's okay if you don't feel the same, I understand. Before he could finish, Katsuki moved closer, and Izuku's heart raced. Their lips met, and all his words tangled in his mind. Time seemed to freeze as he closed his eyes, savoring the moment. The kiss deepened, igniting a whirlwind of emotions. When they finally pulled apart, both boys were flushed, their eyes sparkling with newfound feelings. I like you too, idiot. Since when did you take so long to say it? Katsuki mumbled, looking away, embarrassed. Izuku chuckled softly, recalling his earlier conversation with Kirishima. What did Kirishima say? I met him before I came in. Katsuki sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. He said it was obvious we liked each other and that he couldn't stand watching us anymore. He thought it was up to you to say something since he knows I wouldn't. Izuku's surprise mixed with relief. Wait, doesn't Kirishima like you? How did he know I liked you? He said it was clear from how you acted during missions. And what do you mean he likes me? He's dating someone else. Izuku's expression shifted from surprise to joy, his hand finding Katsuki's. It felt like a dream come true, as if fate had finally smiled upon him. What about Ochako? Did she say anything? Katsuki looked skeptical but smiled. So neither Kirishima nor Ochako likes us. And we're already in this. What do you think about dating? Izuku blurted out, surprised by his own boldness. Katsuki's reaction was unexpected but positive. Okay. That works for me. Really? Do you think I joke about this? I'm serious. Izuku found Katsuki's shy demeanor endearing. He gently caressed Katsuki's cheek, feeling warmth radiate from him. I'm so happy. I really like you, Kaken. Despite his embarrassment, Katsuki held Izuku's gaze with equal intensity. They leaned closer, their faces almost touching, anticipation building. Just as they were about to kiss again, Izuku broke the moment with a teasing question. Kaken. Did you eat teppanyaki with extra pepper? The mood shifted instantly, and Katsuki hid his face in Izuku's neck, clearly caught off guard. You know Mrs. Chiyo said not to eat spicy food. It's not good for you, especially with your tests. Izuku laughed, feeling a mix of affection and amusement. Their connection deepened, and he knew this was just the beginning of their journey together. The hair he brought for me was ridiculous. I was really in the mood to eat this. They began a playful argument, a testament to their love that never dulled their banter. Izuku chased after Kaken, determined to protect the rest of his food, which was in danger of being tossed aside. The day was beautiful, mirroring the feelings blossoming in their new relationship. Deku and Dynamite were proving that they could establish a romantic connection without their usual fights. The Wonder Duo had turned the impossible into reality, laughing in the face of danger. Nothing felt improbable or unreal for this new couple of heroes. They knew their budding romance would give their agency, Rhodey, Anime, and their friends a bit of a challenge, but that was a small price to pay for the fulfillment of childhood dreams and the joy of their courtship. 2 days after they started dating, Kaken was finally discharged from the hospital, alongside Izuku. Chiyo informed them that the tests showed no more signs of the individuality affecting Kaken, and his personality was returning to normal. He was no longer blushing easily or feeling overly possessive when Deku was near other Omegas. However, she cautioned them to remain vigilant, as the symptoms hadn't fully disappeared. Kaken would need to take medication and contraceptives daily, along with wearing an anti-mark collar. His Omega instincts were still not completely under control, and he might unintentionally attract other alphas, despite being committed to Deku. As they packed their bags, memories flooded their minds, reflecting on the romantic moments they had shared in the hospital room. Teppanyaki decorated the bedside table next to Kaken, while a bottle of tea from Inko adorned Deku's side. They gazed out the window at the cityscape, their hands intertwined. Kaken's hand was warmer, still recovering from the effects of his quirk. Deku's eyes were fixed on Kaken, who was illuminated by the morning light, his smile both charming and passionate. This made Kaken's inner Omega swell with pride. He was the number one hero, after all, with countless admirers, yet he had chosen Deku. It was a significant acknowledgement of their bond. What's wrong? You can't stop looking at me. Is there something on my face? Kaken asked, a hint of annoyance in his voice. Yes, there is. Deku replied, gently caressing Kaken's cheeks. You're beautiful. Very handsome, Kaken. Kaken felt a rush of embarrassment at the compliment, even though he was used to Deku's praise. Why did it feel different now? Shut up, you idiot. Kaken likes to be praised. Don't worry, I'll praise you every day. Deku said playfully. Kaken struggled to respond, his heart racing and his thoughts muddled. He felt overwhelmed by Deku's touch, which sent his mind spinning. Despite the chaos in his head, Kaken couldn't look away from Deku's vibrant green eyes. They were so captivating that he felt he could lose himself in them. I know you like affection, Kaken. That's why I like you. You're as special and perfect as in all my dreams. Deku confessed, his love evident in his words. Kaken felt a flutter in his chest as he heard Deku's voice, and he realized he was purring. Kaken quickly snapped out of his trance. And no, idiot. It must have been some car engine. I've heard you purr before, Kaken. It's okay, I liked it, Deku said, surprised but pleased. Kaken shivered at the gentle touch of Deku's hand on his waist. It felt good, even if it was just a light touch. He realized he was feeling more emotions than he had when the quirk was affecting him. I think I know why this is happening. Kaken stammered, feeling a bit embarrassed. Deku leaned closer, curiosity shining in his eyes. Kaken knew he had to explain, but the closer Deku got, the more flustered he felt. I always feel like this when my heat is approaching. If I'm not mistaken, it's the beginning of the month, and now that it's been more than a week. Today is the 13th. Deku interrupted, glancing at his phone. Kaken rolled his eyes, knowing the date was important but not necessary to mention. Still, it was good to confirm what he had been thinking. Whatever, he replied, trying to sound indifferent, though he could hardly bear the closeness of their faces. My heat usually comes around the middle of the month, and the symptoms start a day or two in advance. So. Katsuki snapped back to reality, finding Izuku staring at him, eyes wide and hands resting on his shoulders. The expression on Izuku's face was a mix of astonishment, amusement, and a hint of embarrassment, his hands trembling slightly. Katsuki felt his face heat up, while Izuku looked equally flustered. They were two embarrassed young men discussing something as natural as an Omega's heat, which in this case was Katsuki's. Izuku's mind raced with thoughts, overwhelmed by the implications of Katsuki's situation. He felt a rush of emotions, excitement bubbling within him at the thought of being so close to Katsuki. Are you inviting me to spend your heat? Izuku stammered, swallowing hard. Katsuki nodded, watching as Izuku ran his hands through his messy hair, a gesture that hinted at his own nervousness. It was as if Izuku had just discovered he had won the lottery. In that moment, Izuku felt like the luckiest person in the world. He had always dreamed of sharing precious moments with Katsuki, and now he would be spending his heat with him. It was almost too good to be true. They had only been dating for 2 days, but after years of unspoken feelings, it was time to embrace their connection. So, Deku. Do you accept? Katsuki asked, feigning annoyance at Izuku's hesitation. Izuku couldn't imagine refusing such a request from the person he cared for so deeply. Of course I accept, Kaken. I've never been in heat with anyone. So I'm sorry for my outbursts. I just didn't expect this invitation to come from you. Katsuki fell silent, realizing how unusual it was for him to invite someone to share such an NTMT experience. He had spent time with others before, but never like this. In a moment of courage, Katsuki leaned in and kissed Izuku, trying to ease the tension between them. The kiss was tentative at first, but quickly deepened as they both surrendered to their feelings. As their lips moved together, the atmosphere shifted, filled with warmth and a sense of urgency. Izuku's hand found its way to Katsuki's waist, while Katsuki's fingers tangled in Izuku's hair, both of them lost in the moment. Izuku was taken aback by the sudden intensity of the situation. The air around them was charged with a mix of excitement and nervousness. Kaken. We should stop here. I think your heat is really close, he said, trying to regain some composure. Katsuki realized how caught up he had become, feeling a wave of embarrassment wash over him. Sorry. I didn't mean to. It's okay, Kaken. I'm glad you chose me to spend your heat with. I'm just a bit nervous. Don't worry about it. An awkward silence fell between them, their fingers brushing against each other, igniting a spark that neither had anticipated. Just then, Chiyo entered with her usual cheerful demeanor. Katsuki-kun, you've been discharged. Your parents are waiting for you at the door. I see you've packed your bags, and so has Izuku-kun. Both young men, still flustered from their kiss, nodded quickly and made their way out, eager to leave the room. The walk to the exit was filled with a mix of excitement and embarrassment, their fingers occasionally brushing against each other, sending electric thrills through them. As they spotted Mitsuki and Masaru waiting for them, they instinctively pulled their hands apart, feeling shy in front of their parents. It looks better now, son, Mitsuki remarked. Really, kid, it's much better than that day, Masaru added. Katsuki rolled his eyes, feeling a mix of annoyance and affection for his mother, trying to suppress a smile at the situation. Although he was feeling a mix of emotions, Katsuki accepted the comforting touch his father gave him on the back, sensing a calmness in Masaru that contrasted with his own feelings. Masaru noticed the change in his son's demeanor but chose to remain silent, aware that they were still close to Mitsuki. He planned to discuss Katsuki's situation with him later. Izuku stood quietly beside Katsuki, a relaxed smile on his face that hinted at his embarrassment in front of his partner's parents. Masaru, noticing this, decided to intervene. "Izuku, your mother is waiting for you in the parking lot with all might. Thank you for keeping me company while Katsuki was dealing with his quirk issues." I appreciate your kindness, Mr. Masaru," Izuku replied, feeling rooted to the spot as he looked around. After a moment of hesitation, the green-haired alpha waved goodbye, heading toward where Masaru indicated his mother was waiting. Masaru turned to Katsuki, who walked alongside him. "Why is Izuku different, Katsuki?" Mitsuki was further away, handling Dynamite's bag as she opened the trunk of the car. Katsuki felt this was a good opportunity to share his relationship with Izuku, especially since his mother was preoccupied. Taking a deep breath, he decided to be honest with his father. "We're dating, Dad. He confessed to me 2 days ago, and I feel the same way. I hope you won't be upset or uncomfortable, and I'd like to talk to Mom about it privately with Izuku." Katsuki felt a wave of embarrassment wash over him as he waited for his father's response. After a moment of silence, he looked back at Masaru, who wore a smile that brought relief. "I knew that this time together would bring you closer. I'm happy for your relationship with Izuku-kun, son. You both make a wonderful couple. Was that why you seemed so distressed?" Katsuki nodded, feeling a mix of confusion and relief. It was a bit awkward to share such personal feelings with someone who had always cared for him, but it felt good to share his happiness too. They exchanged smiles, appreciating Masaru's support. However, Masaru's expression turned serious as he asked, "But what about the media? You both are popular heroes, and there might be challenges when your fans find out." "Don't worry, Dad. Our agents will handle it, and will probably hold a press conference to explain everything. If anything serious comes up, the press will manage it for us," Katsuki assured him. Masaru nodded, though a part of him remained concerned about how they would navigate any potential backlash. Still, he chose to trust his son's judgment. As they made their way to the car, they engaged in light conversation about everything that had happened during their time apart. Mitsuki waited for them, a bit impatient due to their delay. Once they reached the car, Katsuki waved goodbye. However, Mitsuki stopped him before he could enter. "Your scent seems different. Are you going into heat soon?" Katsuki let out a frustrated snort, nodding reluctantly. She continued, her protective instincts kicking in. "Who will you spend your heat with? Do you need anything? Should I call someone for you?" Feeling overwhelmed by her questions, Katsuki considered escaping to his apartment for some peace. Instead, he shrugged, trying to reassure her. "I don't think I'll need anyone. But if I do, I'll call that hotline you mentioned last month." This seemed to ease her worries, though she still insisted he reach out if he needed anything. Katsuki knew she meant well, but discussing such matters with his mother was uncomfortable. Noticing his son's discomfort, Masaru stepped in. "Leave him be, Mitsuki. He knows what he's doing. He's almost 30, and it's time we trust his decisions. Let's give him some space. It's been a tough week for him." Though she was still concerned, Mitsuki decided to follow her husband's advice, starting the car and driving away. Finally alone, Katsuki sighed in relief and mentally thanked his father. He followed the path of the stairs without even greeting the doorman, whom he liked to joke about. After a long bath in his tub, enjoying the view from his apartment, Katsuki realized that his cycle was approaching. His thoughts drifted to the company of another person. His lips tingled with the memory of the kiss they shared in the hospital room, and he couldn't help but wish Izuku were with him at that moment. The longing burned within him, and he found himself feeling emotional at night, missing the other person under the same roof. The confinement had spoiled him, and he yearned for the moments they could share together. The next day, Izuku woke early to the sound of birds and cicadas. The fresh air from the open window sent a shiver down his bare skin. He turned over, wrapped in a cold knitted blanket, and checked the time. It was 5:45 in the morning, time to start his hero routine. His first stop was the bathroom, where he took care of his personal hygiene and washed away the remnants of sleep. He tried out his new facial soap and moisturizer, gifts from a commercial he had done. Once ready, dressed in clean clothes and feeling refreshed, Izuku headed to the kitchen, excited by the delicious smells wafting from there. His mother had prepared lunch boxes for him, knowing well that his cooking skills were lacking. The lunch boxes were filled with lovingly made meals and adorned with cute notes, alongside a bottle of his favorite iced mint and pineapple tea. He quickly finished the food and tidied up the kitchen with a little help from his Quirk, then rushed out. Izuku ran to the terrace, activated a portion of One for All, and leaped across the buildings to reach the agency. Since he didn't have a license due to his coordination issues, this was the most efficient way for him to get to work. Entering the agency, he checked the wall clock and mentally counted down. As soon as he reached 1, Endeavor appeared in the office, looking disheveled but still commanding. "You've barely started your routine again and you're already late, Hero Deku," Endeavor remarked, a hint of amusement in his tone. Sorry, Mr. Endeavor. I took a long time in the shower," Izuku replied, feeling a bit embarrassed. Endeavor softened his expression slightly, turning to his secretary, who was busy on her tablet. "Endeavor, the media has been all over you since yesterday when they saw Deku and Dynamite leaving the hospital together. We received several inquiries this morning about their situation," she informed. Endeavor's gaze shifted to Izuku, who felt a wave of nervousness wash over him. I. Izuku stammered, struggling to find the right words. Finally, he decided to be honest. "We are dating. We were thinking about it during our confinement, and then it just happened." Endeavor sighed heavily, massaging his temples. He exchanged a look with his secretary, who understood the unspoken command. "Next time, kid, let us know. My secretary will inform Rhodey about your relationship with Dynamite, and it will be posted on social media. Expect some controversy or an invitation to a gossip show. It won't be our fault, you two got involved in this," Endeavor stated. Izuku nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. Sweat trickled down his forehead as he felt a mix of anxiety and determination. After Endeavor left, Izuku released a breath he didn't realize he was holding. He knew he had to be more professional now that he was ranked number 1. He picked up his uniform from the locker room, put it on, and left the agency, heading to the location where his right-hand man, Rhodey, had informed him he would be on patrol. He was eager to find out which hero would be joining him. He finally arrived, leaning against the iron bar of a building's billboard, only to notice someone else there. His eyes widened at the sight of his boyfriend, who was gazing into the distance with a soft expression, illuminated by the weak sunlight of the day. Katsuki looked radiant and beautiful in Izuku's eyes, intensifying the longing to reach out and touch him. However, concern for his health, which still wasn't perfect, took precedence over those feelings. "Kaken. I didn't know you were going on patrol right after you got out of the hospital yesterday. Isn't it dangerous? Are you okay?" Izuku exclaimed. Katsuki chuckled and walked toward him with a relaxed swagger that left Izuku momentarily dazed. His thoughts wandered, fueled by the way Katsuki moved, and he couldn't help but admire how good he looked in his hero uniform. It was even more appealing now that they were together, and Izuku found himself falling deeper in love. "Relax, Deku. I can work normally, I'm already recovered. Come on. You're worse than my old man. Did you give birth to me or something?" Katsuki teased, his tone light and playful, a smile gracing his lips. Ignoring the joke, Izuku pressed on, "But what about your heat? Didn't you say it was coming? Today is the 14th. Katsuki rolled his eyes, the smile on his face growing at Izuku's concern. It was endearing to see him worry like this, a familiar trait from their childhood. In a moment of realization, Katsuki thought about how protective Izuku would be if they ever got married. The thought surprised him, but his inner turmoil about his impending heat made him shake it off. It won't be a problem, Deku. If I start feeling off, I'll let you know, he assured, trying to calm his boyfriend's worries. Izuku nodded, taking Katsuki's gloved hand as they walked through the city. He inhaled the familiar scent of Katsuki's hair and kissed his temple, feeling content just to be close to him. I missed you, Kaken. You don't know how much. Katsuki purred in response, appreciating the affection. It was a welcome feeling, especially after the longing he had felt the night before. I felt it too, idiot Deku, he replied, sharing a brief kiss. If not for their responsibilities, it might have turned into something more. They checked their phones for the patrol location indicated by their agents and jumped off the building, soaring through the sky together, sunlight illuminating their path. It felt comforting to be loved. During the first hour of their patrol, everything remained calm, likely due to the efforts of Endeavor and Toshinori after an accident. The streets were empty, filled only with the sounds of birds and passing cars. As they continued their patrol, they chatted with local merchants but found nothing amiss. The neighborhood felt more like a quiet town than the bustling Mizutafu they knew. After some time, they decided to rest on a bench in a small square, shaded by a large tree. They sipped on energy drinks, hoping for a boost, but the monotony of the day made them feel sleepy instead. While they held hands, now that their relationship was public, Katsuki felt a twinge in his stomach, groaning in discomfort when Izuku unintentionally touched him there. What's wrong, Kaken? What do you feel? Tell me. Izuku asked, alarmed. Katsuki's thoughts turned to the word boyfriend, which only intensified his discomfort. He felt a wave of frustration wash over him, the pain growing as he grappled with his feelings. Stupid Omega. You can barely make your alpha feel attracted to you. Look how your face doesn't show any blush or excitement for us. It only shows disgust and fear. Idiot. Idiot, his inner wolf scolded, astonished by his lack of confidence. It kept pestering him, belittling him for feeling useless. It hurts, he protested amidst the discomfort that hit him harder. Deep down, he knew it wasn't true, Deku loved him. It was just his Omega nagging him to finally satisfy his desires. Yet, a part of him feared that his wolf was right, that even though the other had spoken words full of truth, it could be a deception. Filled with questions, doubts, and afflictions, he was not the type to depreciate himself, always maintaining high self-esteem to avoid being swayed by others' comments. He decided to issue an ultimatum, hoping the nagging voice was completely wrong. Kaken. Take me home. My heat. Her cheeks flushed from the symptoms that followed the discomfort, her body no longer caring about shame. You said you would help us. The Alpha felt everything stop, reviewing all his actions and trying to process the request, lost in his natural concerns. It was true, he had promised to help the other with his cycle, so why was he just staring like a fool? He needed to act. Why was he so slow? Sorry, Kaken, for my slowness. I must fulfill my promises. Let's go to your apartment, then we'll call the agency or something. First you come, then them. Shall we, Omega? The honorable attitude made the blonde shiver, moved by the affection in his words. He immediately accepted the outstretched hand and climbed onto the Alpha's lap, allowing himself to be carried as he jumped with the help of his power. Izuku knew where his boyfriend's apartment was, they had discussed it during a sleepless night before declaring their relationship. He had memorized the block and number, knowing it would be useful. He entered through the window, ignoring the door. It was fortunate for him that the window was open, he was probably lost in thought, just like himself. He laid his boyfriend down on the bed in the center of the room, where clothes were already piled up. Katsuki was shaking and could barely feel his legs, the discomfort overwhelming him. Deku, excited by the way Kaken looked, sniffed his neck, feeling his whole body vibrate from the scent. Every time he inhaled his pheromones, he felt a rush of desire. Noticing the other's respectful shyness, Bakogu urged him, "Hurry up, Deku. It hurts. I want you." Allowing himself to act, pleasure washed over him as his hot tongue ran down Kaken's neck, fingers searching for the zipper of his uniform. Following his alpha's lead, he decided to rip the back of his suit, not having the patience to find the zipper. His mouth continued its path down Kaken's body, tracing kisses on every inch of his skin. He barely realized how lost he was in the moment, the kisses making him addicted to the pleasurable sensations. What he wanted was to be close to him. The tender kisses lingered, and he focused on the sensations, feeling a rush of excitement. "See, idiot Omega. He wants us," the crimson-eyed one thought, feeling satisfied that he was right. The discomfort faded, replaced by sounds of pleasure that filled the room. His tongue explored, eager to touch every part of Katsuki's body. Izuku was now completely captivated by Katsuki's presence. He wanted to draw more sweet sighs from him, kissing every bit of his skin. He felt like a traveler who had found a treasure. He pulled down the Omega's underwear, letting Katsuki's body feel free. His eyes widened at the sight, and he couldn't resist the urge to explore further. Katsuki was so sensitive, producing sounds that delighted Izuku. When he was asked to open his legs, he complied without hesitation. With his legs wrapped around Izuku's neck, he was able to see everything clearly. Unable to resist any longer, Deku leaned in, focusing on the moment, feeling exhilarated. "Ah! God!" Katsuki's voice was like music, urging him to continue. Izuku discovered that the experience was even better than he had imagined, and he was completely lost in the moment. Katsuki's body trembled, overwhelmed by the sensations. "Ah! Sheet," he gasped, losing himself in the pleasure, a wave of bliss washing over him. It hurt, but it was pleasurable to have Katsuki's warm hand in his hair, a mix of sensations that made Izuku feel overwhelmed. He could feel the excitement building within him, a tension that made his uniform feel tight against his body. After a moment, Katsuki let go of Izuku's hair and threw himself onto the bed, feeling a wave of relief wash over him. However, the lingering sensation reminded him that he still craved more, and he was determined to find satisfaction. His gaze fell to the lower part of Izuku's uniform, noticing the telltale signs of excitement there. This realization filled him with a sense of pride, knowing that their connection was so intense. Izuku's eyes were wide, filled with a mix of excitement and anticipation. Taking advantage of the moment, Katsuki traced his fingers along Izuku's body, feeling the warmth radiating from him. Izuku shivered at the touch, the thrill of the moment overshadowing any embarrassment he might have felt. With a playful smile, Izuku, driven by his instincts, quickly began to remove Katsuki's suit, surprisingly patient as he did so. He admired Katsuki's physique, noting how much he had changed since their school days. The sight of Katsuki's well-defined body made Izuku's heart race, and he couldn't help but feel a rush of desire. As he took in the sight before him, Izuku felt a wave of excitement wash over him. He wanted to explore this new dynamic between them, to fully embrace the moment. He leaned in closer, eager to please Katsuki and heighten the tension between them. Katsuki, feeling the thrill of Izuku's actions, encouraged him with soft murmurs, urging him to continue. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation, and Izuku felt a sense of relief wash over him as he realized they were both on the same page. As they lost themselves in the moment, Katsuki's hands tangled in Izuku's hair, guiding him closer. The connection between them deepened, and they both felt the intensity of their emotions rising. It was a dance of passion and desire, one that neither of them wanted to end. Izuku, feeling bold, began to explore further, wanting to make the experience unforgettable for both of them. He was determined to savor every moment, to create memories that would last a lifetime. The excitement was palpable, and they both knew they were embarking on a new chapter in their relationship. With a mix of nervousness and eagerness, they prepared to take their connection to the next level, ready to embrace whatever came next. Izuku looked into Katsuki's eyes, filled with love and determination, and asked softly, "Okay, Kaken? Are you ready for this?" He received a positive nod in response, but before he could fully position himself, Katsuki stopped him with his hands on his chest, as if contemplating what to say. The next moment, they left, determined to stay close to the Alpha. The Alpha looked at him with a hint of confusion. Noticing this, Katsuki blushed and said, "I thought it would be better to use protection, but, you know." He hesitated, too embarrassed to continue. "An Omega is only satisfied when an Alpha commits," the other hero replied, a wide, affectionate smile on his lips. Kaken's eyes widened, as if to ask, "How do you know that?" He chuckled awkwardly before leaning down to whisper in his ear, "I researched heats tonight since it's my first time helping. I found some interesting things to make sure my Kaken is satisfied." Happy? Deku's graceful manner was one of his unique traits, often causing him to lose himself in thought. In response, he purred with happiness, excitement coursing through him as he looked into those emerald eyes, momentarily forgetting everything else. "Yes. Now, let's get on with it," he said impatiently, though his anxiety was palpable. Following the order, Izuku positioned himself, feeling the anticipation build. He began to move slowly, alternating his gaze between the sensations and Kaken's expressions, who appeared wide-eyed and flushed, muttering under his breath. When he finally felt their bodies connect, an overwhelming pleasure surged through him, the warmth and excitement igniting his senses. He leaned in, kissing his partner deeply, savoring the moment as he waited for the initial discomfort to transform into pleasure. The first wave of sensation made him feel lightheaded, and he was captivated by the expressions of the Alpha above him. The movements became more confident, and he felt a rush of exhilaration. "More," he urged, tightening his grip around the green-haired man's waist, lost in the moment. Encouraged by the sounds of pleasure, Izuku felt himself becoming more immersed in the experience. He was captivated by the connection they shared, feeling exhilarated as they lost themselves in each other. Suddenly, he noticed a shift in the atmosphere, a sense of possessiveness enveloping them. Kaken's demeanor changed, and his scent became more pronounced, signaling their bond. One moment, he was caught up in the pleasure, and the next, he felt a rush of warmth and connection that left him breathless. The sensation was overwhelming, and he felt a wave of joy wash over him. As the moment reached its peak, he felt a rush of emotion, and everything around him faded away, leaving only the two of them in their own world. The connection they shared was profound, and he couldn't help but feel a sense of fulfillment. Once the intensity subsided, he looked up at Deku, who appeared radiant and content. The joy of the moment lingered, and he felt a sense of happiness wash over him, knowing they had shared something special. "Kaken? Are you okay? Does it hurt?" he asked, concern evident in his voice. Kaken's serious expression softened, and he replied, "It doesn't hurt at all, you silly nerd. All I feel is a sense of fullness." Embarrassed yet happy, he settled next to Kaken, feeling a warmth spread through him as they embraced. Both were left with thoughts of their future together, filled with hope and joy. Surrounded by blankets and filled with love and affection, they took the opportunity to enjoy each other's company, talking about trivial things and sharing their thoughts on the patrol they had just completed. "I love you so much," Izuku murmured, showering Katsuki with gentle kisses. Katsuki smiled widely, feeling a warmth in his heart. However, that beautiful feeling was interrupted by a familiar twinge of discomfort, causing him to let out a soft whimper instead of a purr. "I love you too. But right now, I'm not feeling great, and I want to be close to you again," he replied, his tone teasing yet sincere. They embraced once more, with Katsuki feeling a sense of pride in being able to support Izuku through this time, cherishing the moments they had together. This cycle of closeness continued for several days until things returned to normal for the hero Dynamite. It was more than just a pleasurable experience, it marked a significant moment in their relationship, symbolized by a temporary bond that was deeply meaningful to both of them after waiting so long to be united. A year had passed since their relationship began. Now, they found themselves at a press conference alongside heroes Shudo and Uravity. Dynamite. When did you start liking the hero Deku? A reporter asked. Katsuki felt his face flush with irritation. Is that really a question for a professional press conference? He replied, trying to maintain his composure. Kaken. Izuku exclaimed, showing his disapproval of the reporter's question. Katsuki crossed his arms, feeling frustrated that he had to answer such questions, knowing his reputation was on the line. He took a deep breath, recalling the calming techniques his psychologist had taught him, though it was challenging to stay calm with the persistent reporter. Despite feeling overwhelmed, he managed to soften his expression and responded, I started to like the nerd when I realized that what I thought was hate was actually love. It took time to accept, but eventually, I couldn't hide my feelings anymore. His honesty surprised even him, and he glanced shyly at Izuku, who was looking back at him with a warm smile. It was similar for me, but I realized it earlier, in childhood. I thought the feelings would fade, but they only grew stronger, especially after we became partners after graduating from UA. I'm so happy we have a strong relationship, with all its ups and downs. And I'm even happier to say that we're expecting a child together, Izuku added, his words causing a stir among the reporters. The announcement sent waves through the crowd, with many excitedly reacting to the news of their impending parenthood. Katsuki shot Izuku an incredulous look. You weren't supposed to tell them now. We had to share the news eventually, Kaken. I thought this was the right moment. Izuku replied, a playful glint in his eye. Under the table, they held hands, sharing a quiet moment amidst the chaos of the press conference, their bond stronger than ever. Their relationship quickly became a hot topic on social media, with discussions both positive and negative. Yet, they remained unfazed by the chatter, focusing instead on each other and the health of their growing family. They often reflected on the Cupid's arrow accident that had brought them together, grateful for the chance to express their love and embrace the genuine connection they had always felt. In the midst of their busy lives as heroes, this was the best thing that had ever happened to them.